6. Happy Friday. We're going to get started in lesson 3 today. We've been talking about adaptations, and then the last couple of days we talked about the food chain, the food pyramid, producers, consumers, decomposers. Today we're going to talk about how do organisms compete for the resources. So based on the adaptations they have, how do they fight to get what they need? Organisms compete for resources in the ecosystem. Predators survive by eating prey. Some organisms will have what we call symbiotic relationships. Guys, we're going to get to that not this week. We'll get to that after Thanksgiving when we pick this back up to talk about the symbiotic relationships. Let's get rolling on competition today. A watering hole is a good place to see animals on the African savanna. You might see zebras, giraffes, gazelles, wildebeest, and other animals. How can an ecosystem have enough resources for so many organisms? Number 1 in your notes, competition is the struggle among organisms to survive in a habitat with limited resources, okay? So, guys, competition starts when the resources become limited. If there's plenty of water and plenty of food, then there's no competition. As soon as it starts to become limited, then we start to fight for the resources. Like all organisms, the animals on the savanna in the picture need food, water, and a place to live. Number 2 in your notes. The animals that survive, they compete successfully with other resources. Okay, first this little chart, guys. So you have your normal habitat where you live, and then you have where some animals can make the occasional excursion. In other words, animals want to live here. This elephant wants to live on the open grassland and the wooded savanna. It can survive in the rocky hills out here, and it can make it into the flooded plain. Okay, so you go down here and you have this lekwe. It can survive in a flooded plain. That's it, guys. Now, if the flooded plain goes away, it can't just say, well, I'll just travel to the rocky hills and be okay. It only survives in its limited habitat, which means it's going to compete like crazy here. An elephant might be living right here and going, you know what? I'm not really up for competition. I'm just going to move over here or move over here. I don't have to compete with him because I can survive. The elephant has a great chance of surviving, guys. Why? It can live in all 4 of these habitats. Some animals can get in 1 or 2, some mainly just 1 of the habitats, and so it doesn't have much of a place to live. The less of a place I can survive, the more competition I'm going to be in. As you can see in the diagram on page 176, all the animals on the savanna do not live in the same area. Different species live in different places, and those that do live together have different needs. So I wrote down this. Many animals can survive. Why? Because 1, they either live in different places, or 2, they have different needs. They'll give you an example of this. Organisms with different needs can live together with little competition. Zebras and wildebeest can graze together on the savanna because they have different diets. Zebras prefer the tall, coarse grasses. When the zebras eat those grasses, they expose the shorter grasses, which the wildebeest then eat. So the zebra roams around, it eats that tall, dry grass on the top. As it eats it down, it's done, it moves on. Then there's that little softer grass underneath. Here comes the wildebeest. The wildebeest eats that up. So is a wildebeest and a zebra fighting each other? No, there's no competition. They eat different food. Now, guys, if you notice, it says there's little competition. Obviously, both zebra and wildebeest need water, don't they? And so you're always going to have some competition based on things that overlap. But the most competition that comes from food, you can get along. Competition happens when organisms in an ecosystem have similar needs. An ecosystem can't always meet its organism's needs. Resources, including water, food, and shelter, are limited. Organisms with helpful adaptations will survive. Tragically, others are simply going to die. So, guys, when you ever see this and you have all these animals cramming in this water hole, and here comes the alligator, right? And the alligator's going to jump out of here and have zebra for lunch. And your eyes like, zebra, you're so stupid. What are you doing there? Well, what do you mean, what's it doing there? It has no other choice. It has a need. Its need is water. And so it knows its competition. It knows alligators will be around, but it has to take that chance because it has to meet its needs. Sometimes members of the same species compete. This might happen if resources become scarce, for example, by drought. If water in the savanna is scarce, zebras that can survive with less water might survive. Those that need more water might drop over dead. So I wrote down, this is where you get this saying, survival of the fittest, right? I can either hack it or I can't. So animals that run faster are going to be able to run down slower zebras, right? Fast zebras are going to be able to outrun lions. They are going to survive. Slow lions aren't going to be able to catch anything. They're going to die off. Okay, I'm a really fast lion. I eat a lot of zebras. I live a long life. I reproduce many, many times, right? And therefore, my offspring should have good genetics of being really strong. So over time, survival of the fittest should just be making faster and stronger animals. Now, obviously, that's true both ways, guys. Lions might be getting faster and stronger, but so are the zebras they have to try to catch. So the strong will make it through it. Okay. Competition also occurs between different species. Like wildebeest, gazelles eat short, tender grass. If drought reduces the number of grass plants, wildebeest and gazelles will now compete for those limited resources. All organisms, not just animals, compete for resources. Plants compete for water, growing space, minerals, sunlight. Some plants even have strategies for reducing competition. They release into the soil poisonous chemicals that will kill other species around them. So I wrote this. Competition happens between members of the same species, that's this paragraph, between different species, that's the second paragraph, and also in plants, the third paragraph. So guys, lots of times we're looking at competition. Yeah, zebras versus wildebeest. But you also have to remember that in plants, fighting for space and tree branches growing towards sunlight. And if I'm not getting up to the sunlight, I'm not there. You look at trees, young trees in the forest, guys, very few branches. They are literally trying to grow straight up. They're putting all their energy into get me to the sky. Once I get to the sky and I have a source of sunlight and I can do photosynthesis, then we'll widen out, thicken out, and branch out. But first cause is it's fighting for sunlight. It's growing to try to get sunlight. On to the next page. Animals use different methods to get the food they need. Some animals, like the tapirs in the photo on the next page, eat plants, but these tapirs can be food for other animals such as a panther. An animal that feeds on other animals is called a predator. The animal that a predator eats is called a prey. So you're down here. Eight predator feeds on other animals. Prey is the animal that gets eaten. So they were talking about this guy right here, your tapir, eating plants, guys. But then this guy is lunch for the panther that comes roaming along. The number of predators that an ecosystem can support depends on the number of prey, and the number of prey depends on how many predators there are. It's a balancing act. As you can see in the graph below, as the number of predators increases, more prey are eaten. The number of prey then gets smaller. When that happens, the predators do not have enough food and they will die or they might move on. As a result, there are fewer predators. Therefore, fewer prey are eaten. Therefore, more prey will survive to become food for more predators will come back. The number will go back and forth. So guys, they're just trying to show as one goes up and down, the other one goes up and down. You talked about this on Monday with your skill of introducing the deer to the island. Tons of grass, tons of deer. Grass dies out, deer start to die out. Then you should have written, okay, then the grass will start to come back because there's not that many deer. And then what's going to happen? The deer population will come back. And what's going to happen? They're going to eat too much grass and the grass will start to die out, which will make the deer start to die out. It just goes up and down and up and down. Okay, so we got to understand the predator-prey relationship and how that stuff works. They go hand in hand. I see that with coyotes in my neighborhood. All of a sudden you'll have the neighbor saying, my cat, my little dog got eaten by coyotes. The coyotes are everywhere. Well, that's probably true, but you have too many pets, one, and two, there are rabbits everywhere. You start killing off the rabbits, the coyotes will move on because there's not a steady food source. As more rabbits come about, more coyotes come with them, guys. It just goes up and down and up and down. So number 10, the number of predators in an ecosystem depends on the number of prey. And that's the other way around. As one goes up, the other one goes up. As one goes down, the other one goes down. Now, guys, they wrote down in here, the predators will soon die. If I'm a coyote and I'm eating rabbits, and pretty soon I ate up all the rabbits, I'm not going to say, well, that's a bummer for me. I guess I'm going to die. I'm moving on. I'm moving somewhere else, constantly hunting for food. Now, might I not find any and die? Yes, but please understand how animals are always on the move with that stuff. Okay. Let's talk about the adaptation. Both predators and prey have adaptations to help them survive. Many predators are adapted to hunt and kill. They may be, number 11, fast. They may have a great sense of smell. They may have a great sense of hearing. They may have a great sense of sight, all used to help them locate prey. Some predators have behaviors that help them catch prey. Example, pack animals such as the wolves work as a group to attack individuals from a herd. An alligator floats with only its eyes and nostrils out of the water. Its strong jaw muscles and sharp teeth help the alligator grab its meal. Its ability to hold its breath, guys. An alligator will grab its meal and it'll take him to the bottom, and he literally drowns the animal because he can last underwater longer than other ones. Those are all adaptation the predator has in order to help them do those things. Okay, not all predators chase their prey. A jellyfish has hundreds of stinging cells on its tentacles. Chemicals in these cells paralyze the prey, which then can be eaten. So now they give you a different thing of some of those other things. So you think of a pufferfish. A pufferfish is small, but it can inflate itself with air, and so it has spines, and so a fish will come along and eat it, and then the pufferfish puffs up. Boom! Right? Some of these animals are poisonous. They talked about stinging from jellyfish. All those things that are just awesome things that God made each one to help it, whether it's a prey or predator. Prey are adapted to avoid predators. Some prey animals secrete a poison and are brightly colored to warn away predators. Others mimic or look like a dangerous animal. Some predators depend on camouflage to make them look like something else, such as a plant, stick, or rock. So guys, I wrote down prey animals are also adapted. Their best adaptation is camouflage. Okay, so the camouflage word is spelled here. In your science test, they're going to say, what's the best adaptation for a prey animal? And they're going to say its ability to look like a stick or something like that. Okay, so you got it here. They give you an example, guys, right here. I'm sitting on this flower and I look like this. To the average animal or human going really fast, we wouldn't even notice the difference, would we? And so this insect has it made. There are some butterflies, you think, guys, that have these big black dots on their wings, and you're like, big black dots, what are those things doing? Those look like the eyeballs of other animals. And so an animal sees the big black dots and says, that's not a little butterfly that I can eat, it's a big animal. There's a fly that looks like a bumblebee. And so I'm scared of it because I think it's going to sting me, when in the reality, it's just a fly. Okay, I'm going to go back over here where we talk about eye placement. That'll get you number 13. To survive, many animals need eyes that are located where they can see what is most important to them. Predators often have their eyes that are in the front of their head. This placement helps them judge how far away something is. So guys, you're a human being. You need two eyes for what we call depth perception. I can tell the distance away when I have two eyes. The eyes of the prey are often on the sides of their head. This allows the prey to avoid predators because they can see a wide area. So lots of times, guys, when they take this and as a measurement, you obviously have 360 degrees. Most prey animals can see about 300 degrees because of their eyes. So the only thing they can't see is if something sneaks up directly behind them, which is what a lot of predators obviously try to do, guys. You and I cannot see 360 degrees. We can't even see 180 because our eyes are forward. So we see out the sides like this at an angle like that, guys. So 13, eye placement is one way to tell the difference between a predator and prey. Predators usually have eyes in the front of their head. Prey usually have them on the side. All right, you got your extra credit, which is going to the Bible. In the Bible, when in the Old Testament we would capture a city, and a city would surrender, they would gouge out one eye. The reason they would gouge out one eye, guys, is that would take away depth perception. So you were not a good fighter anymore. You couldn't shoot a bow and arrow. You couldn't see exactly how hard to judge those things. So I want you, for extra credit, write Bible equals depth perception. That tells me you know the story of I'm going to gouge out an eye. We think that sounds brutal, but that was a way of making a city never revolt. You would never fight back to an enemy because your soldiers were horrible because they were minus an eye. Okay, last paragraph we have here. Prey animals can also use behavioral adaptations to avoid being killed by predators. Did you ever hear the say, we're playing possum, when they pretended to be sleeping? When threatened, possums curl up and play dead. Predators that are interested in live prey then leave them alone. Sow bugs act in a similar way. When touched, they curl up into a ball. The hard outer covering of their backs acts like armor to protect them from animals. So, guys, you have these different things here that they've talked about on this page. Here's the bright colors. We would think, man, that's not camouflage at all. Nope. We want it to be bright because it produces this poison. And so, animals don't want to get eaten by this, don't want to eat this thing, guys, because of the poison it produces. But we'll talk about this in a devotion later on this year. It's not foolproof. You got the spikes and there's certain things. Okay, we'll finish it up. 14, besides structural adaptations, prey also have behavior. So just like over here, we talked about the behavior adaptations of predators, like hunting in packs. We also have behavioral adaptations of prey. God made both of them to survive, and it's just so cool. Okay, coolest animal adaptation you can think of. I'll give you a couple examples. Here's example number one, if I can find it. When I lived in Minnesota, we'd get these every fall in our house. This is the walking stick, called a stick bug. And guys, you can see literally it just looks like a stick, doesn't it? And I always think about those things. I remember seeing those as a kid, like, how's that stick stuck to our house? And my parents going, it's not a stick, it's a bug. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not a bug. Because in my mind, when I was young, bugs were ladybugs, ants, flies, nothing that looked like that, right? I'll give you another example of a cool adaptation. We know that bats come out at night, right? And they can hunt at night because they use what's called echolocation. They literally send out a pulse that then bounces off bugs back to them, and they use that like radar to locate that. So that's a cool adaptation. Except there are moths out there, guys, that literally can detect that echo sound wave hitting them. So God says, hey, I'm going to let bats use echolocation, and they're going to go, oh man, they're going to eat all the bugs. And then God says, I'm going to let the moths know that they're being hunted right now by being able to detect that. Okay, I just gave you a couple examples, guys. Maybe you can think of one off the top of your head. You're like, this is so cool that an animal can do that. Or maybe you want to take a second and find something on the internet that's like coolest animal adaptation. You'd be amazed at what the good Lord has created the animal world to do, to either hunt or to avoid getting caught as it goes on. All right, guys, have a great Friday. Looking forward to seeing what you can find for number 15. Don't forget your Bible extra credit. Have a day.